Welcome back, everybody, to Le Mans, where we are joined by the president of the FIA. A couple of days ago, in fact, Michel Mouton was here, the FIA delegate for women in motorsport. And today, the president of the FIA, Jean Todt, is here. And of course, Jean Todt, the man who masterminded Peugeot's last successful trip to the top steps of the podium when they won with the Formula 1 V10 engined Peugeot 905Bs. A pair of Le Mans victories under his belt as a team boss, as well, of course, as his huge Formula 1 interests with Ferrari. And just taking a chance to stop off and say hello to Jean Alesi as well on the grid, ex-Ferrari driver, ex-Formula 1 driver, and here racing a Ferrari. But perhaps some things never change. I think when you're a made man at Ferrari, like being in other Italian organisations, hey, you never leave. What do you say, Carlton Kirby?
Well, John Alesi, welcome everybody. John Alesi is a man who is loved universally, I think, and by every team he actually races for as well. In DTM, there's plenty of hugs coming from Norbert Haug. It seems the president of the FIA is just as unaverse to actually putting his arms around the little man. He is a fantastic character, and in fact he came here and we said, so what do you remember about the last time you were here? He said, I remember nothing. Nothing at all. Long time ago.
Jean Todt actually has to reach up to put his arms around little Jean Alesi. Let's get down to the pit lane where we have the FIA president with Justine Monnier.
Pour Le Mans, c'est un grand moment.
C'est formidable de voir une course
Getting ready for the start of Le Mans is a great moment, and Jean Todt say yes, of course, it's a fantastic atmosphere, historic race, very popular. The fans are so enthusiastic. Everything comes together here. Should be a great race. What about safety on the circuit?
Quelques déclarations qui disaient que c'est un circuit très dangereux.
Écoutez, c'est un circuit rapide. On sait que
Do you think it's as dangerous as some of them are saying? Jean Todt saying, yeah, of course it's a fast track. Motor racing always has the potential for danger, but Le Mans work very strongly with security, and certainly compared to the old days, hugely safer.
Merci.
What about a secret? What did you say to Jean Alesi? I just said hello. Not the checks in the post. So Hugues de Schoenack on the left and Olivier Canel on the right. The man who is running the Oreca Peugeot, and the man who is running all four Peugeots, Olivier Canel. And this time he's got 4 strings to his bow. As overhead is La Patrouille, the French equivalent of the Red Arrows. 5 minutes to go. And boys, actually there's already been a little bit of a drama with the Flying Lizards Porsche on its trip from the run across the grid through the pit lane, picked up a puncture, so they've already had their drivers start early.
Yeah, reconnaissance lap. We've seen already earlier on this week, if you've been live with us, then we don't need to give you such a warm welcome. You will be up to speed. As you know, the gravel around here has lots of really rather nasty little flinty pieces within it, and it is slicing up the tyres good and proper. And even on the recon lap, yes, as you've heard, the Flying Lizards, Mark, have suffered.
Yeah, they have, and in fact we've had this all day long. It were 2 races earlier on. We had the French Porsche Carrera Cup, we had the Group C Legends race. A lot of punches in both those races, and this is a cause of concern, of course, for this afternoon. The good news though, all 55 cars are on the grid. No one's going to be starting from the pit lane. We are 1 down after qualifying. We lost one of the AF Corsa Ferraris, but other than that, it's all looking good, Martin.
We'll be back after a brief break. Welcome back live to Le Mans. Bleu, blanc et rouge are the smoke clouds, which they've just turned off and turned back on again. They don't want anything drifting across this track to disturb any minds. I think that's rather adept. Welcome to 24-hour live coverage here. We've had plenty more than that in the build-up to the great race itself. We've had our reconnaissance lap, had a few punctures earlier in the week, picked up one on there, as you've already heard, and we just hope that everyone gets round safely when it comes to the warm-up, which is just about to start. So, a massive crowd here, as always. The atmosphere, well, it just seems to build year on year. It seems to be getting ever more popular, and, well, there's part of the reason of it. Certainly in terms of the Brits that have come over here, they want to see our Nige, and they are making themselves, not a nuisance, but really becoming part of the atmosphere here. It's been fantastic to see chaps in flat caps with moustaches.
That almost came out well.
It almost
flat tashes and nice, flat hats and nice tashes. But everybody plays the crowd. I mean, at this time of day, Mark, historically, and now as ever was, the grandstands are heaving with fans, all eager to make a noise, to see this, you know, great parade start. And the drivers know it, they love it, and the teams all play up to the crowd, trying to get the noise going.
Very much so. 240,000 here last year, at least 85,000 those were Brits, and most of those tend to be opposite the pit lane. So there we are, here's the field, 55 cars, not quite the biggest ever, would have been if we hadn't lost that Ferrari, but here we are, the pride of France, the whole of the first two rows, the Blues.
Well, as the cars start their engines and the official starter gets ready to wave the flag to send them off on this final lap before the race commences. Don't forget, since 1971, a rolling start. And for those of you who have watched the Steve McQueen film Le Mans, the only ever standing start was the one they filmed in 1970. Daniel Poissonneau, the clerk of the course, his name's not Otto, it is Daniel, waves the green flag to get the final lap pre-race underway. And this fantastic field of 55 cars starts to roll. And if tension wasn't already mounting, certainly within the cockpits, the drivers will be feeling a lot more relaxed. Now they can actually go about it. But for the teams on the pit wall, for the second and third drivers, and for every other man Jacobus around the circuit, this is really now the last moment when the hairs start to tingle on the back of your neck, and we are getting ready to start yet another Le Mans.
Absolutely, and if you want to join us on the forum, don't forget, it's eurosport.co.uk. Then click on the message boards, scroll down to Motorsports and click Le Mans. That's the topic area, is new Eurosport 2010 Le Mans Live, because of course we were here in April for the bike race. Well, we've doubled the wheels and maybe twice the excitement. Certainly a vast crowd here, and here's your starting grid.
Well, Pedro Lamy leads a Peugeot 1, 2, 3, 4. Best of the Audis, Timo Bernhardt in the number 9 R15 Plus. And the best of the petrol engine cars, starting in 8th place behind most of the diesels, is Stefan Mucker, with the other Lola Aston Martin of Darren Turner behind him. Orica running not only their Peugeot, but also the AIM engined open prototype, which Sael Ayari will start. 2 R10 TDIs as well in the LMP1 field. And the P2 class pole sitter, Johnny Kane, starts the HPD, the number 15 car from the Stracco racing team that just won out over Highcroft in the battle for pole in that class.
Yes, that was certainly a highlight the other night, wasn't it? That great battle between the two HPT teams. It was Danny Watts against David Brabham. It's something they've been looking forward to all year.
And working your way down through the first dozen rows, still all prototypes. The P2 class particularly, we think, is going to be very, very closely fought. Fastest 3 cars, all with the Honda HPD engine, the ex-IndyCar engine. Thumbs up there from Ant Davidson as he stands in the Peugeot garage. He, of course, has joined the winning crew from last year, Alexander Wurz and Marc Genet. In the GT1 class, pole position taken by the young drivers, Aston Martin DBR9, which Peter Cox will start. And they are, well, that's a slightly smaller class than we're used to. They're up against Celine and Ford GTs, plus the 2 slightly older Corvettes of the Alphon Adventure team.
Yeah, it's a real shame that GT1s won't be part of the action next year. It's being superseded by the GT2s, well, led off by the Corvette racing crew. It's Ollie Gavin that is on the class pole on row 18, alongside, effectively just behind him, certainly alongside as far as the class is concerned, Jan Magnussen, also Corvette racing. The Air, of course, a Ferrari leads off that row 19, incidentally, and a little bit of a mishmash as you go further down. Porsche desperate to try and just avenge what has been a couple of defeats for them. They come here on the back foot just a little bit, but they reckon that this track may well belong to them this time. It's certainly the class where most of the action is going to be happening, Martin.
Well, it is going to be very hard fought. Corvette, of course, multiple GT1 champions, as we heard earlier, going down to the GT2 class, which is a lot healthier than GT1, which has basically ceased to exist in the States where they do most of their racing. But we've got Corvette, we've got Porsche, we've got Ferrari, we've got newcomers from BMW, we've got the new Jaguar, we've got Spiker, we've got Aston Martin. In terms of variety of car, Mark, GT2 probably has everything, and it also has the only disqualification as well. The fastest car in the GT2 class was the Risi Competizione Ferrari, but it had its time disallowed because they had a slightly too low gurney flap on the back of their wing when they pushed it into scrutineering.
Yeah, they changed it, of course, on between Wednesday and Thursday night. Someone had failed to get it re-scrutineered, and so the car had all its times disallowed. They would have had the honour of being on pole. The Jaguar RSR of Paul Gentilozzi would have had the honour of being the last car on the grid. Now finds itself on the penultimate row. Jaguar, though, a return, 75th anniversary, their return for the first time since '95.
And there's a number of anniversaries here, of course. 50th anniversary of Corvette, 75th anniversary of Jaguar first making racing cars. So the Gentilozzi Rocket Sport Racing Jag is a very welcome addition. And for those of you who were watching earlier, what a great sight in the Group C race to see 3 silk cut Jags leading the field into the... I felt 25 again. It was just wondrous.
We all felt a bit younger watching that. Shame, though, unfortunately, that the RSR Jaguar is, well, it would be at the back if it hadn't been for the Risi competition. Not exclusion, but they've been put to the back because of that gurney flap problem on the wing. Now, so, yeah, huge moments here, Mark. You were going to say, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, while we're talking about anniversaries, remember, 200th anniversary for Peugeot. Now, there's something not a lot of people know. It was 200 years ago that the Peugeot brothers set up their blacksmithy in the centre of Paris and started building carts. And here we are. Look, it's got today. Front 2 rows at the Le Mans, 24 hours.
Yeah, it's a marvellous place to be. Great if you're a competitor. Fabulous if you're a commentator. And, of course, if you're a mixture of both, like a certain Liz Halliday, how is this kind of getting to you at the moment?
Oh God, it's hard work. Yeah, it's very hard to be standing up here when you really want to be in the car. I've been very lucky to have done the start at Le Mans twice, and it's definitely hands down the best experience of my entire life to date, and probably nothing's going to usurp that, I think. But
well, we'll try our best.
Yeah. This is the next best thing, of course, standing next to all of you up here.
So look at this, Mark Cole. They're trying to get some teeth into the tyres here. It's got everything you could possibly want. We've got the Peugeots out there. Audi reckon they've dialed in something special between the warm-up and right here. Alan McNish a little bit earlier on saying, we found something, we're not going to tell you what it is.
Well, I think what they've found is the possibility of rain, because that's the only thing that's really going to help Audi. Let's be honest. Jack Eakes we had 2 nights ago up here, he was telling everyone this morning, I'm backing Peugeot unless there's rain.
Well, they better keep their fingers crossed, because it is diminishing the chance of rain, particularly tomorrow on Sunday. So if you're thinking of making a very, very late call to the circuit, it's around about only 5% for the end of the race. That said, we've been downstairs a couple of times and had a chat with people who said, no, there's not going to be any rain, just as the downpour begins. Massive British contingent here, as is always the case, and some very, very familiar looks out there as well. The Ford GTs are out there. I suppose these days, even the Peugeots are starting to look not old hat, but they've been around a lot.
Yeah, thank you for those on the Eurosport thread picking us up. They're not Ford GT40s, we know, but isn't it fun to call them that? Just one question we're going to answer quickly. Live timing, if you want to see that, go to www.lemans.org. It's all there. You can see every second of the race and listen to us.
Absolutely. You've got everything you could possibly want here, surely. The flags are out, the crowd are out in force. As we look up towards the Dunlop Bridge, it's absolutely rammed there. Thank goodness the weather is a little bit cooler, because all those bare bellies that we usually see are thankfully undercover, which is good stuff. Here are the lights of the vehicles, and the important ones, of course, are the safety car in front of them, just holding them as they come to the completion of their circuit here. It's likely to be Peugeot, but just wait until you see Alan McNish get off the leash. Leading off row 3, it's going to be one heck of a skirmish as we begin this one.
Yeah, here's the moment that everybody waits for. God, it's such an incredible experience to come around that turn and see all the crowds of people, and to know that you're starting the 24 hours of Le Mans.
And here we are, we're underway. The car's gone, the flags have waved, and Peugeot scream away. What's the response of Alan McNish? Well, he just holds back, holds station, keep it very sensible. They're going to play the long game here as they head up the hill and underneath the Dunlop curves. Towards the Dunlop curves, and the 7 car does hold, it gets into position right now, and he's already started to make moves here, Alan McNish. He knows he's quick. He started this vehicle, and Peugeot not on the back foot at all. They know that he's held behind, but look at him moving all over the track here, Mark.
Yeah, went straight past Bernhardt. He's really pushing, but these 4 Peugeots, they're all infighting as well. They want the honour of leading the first first lap. Jean-Claude Killy we saw giving the start flag there, and he would love to see a French victory too.
How much movement is there on Alan McNish's car as he tries to find a way through here? So far, absolutely nothing for him. It was alongside Thibaut Bernard in the 9 car. He went by him. Nobody wants Alan McNish behind them in a moment like this, and McNish, well, he picked it up and he absolutely throttled it. Here we go.
And now McNish is trying to pick off Nick Lapierre there. He's in 4th place. Oh, and they're really all over it.
Look-sees. They certainly are. Everyone wants a piece of this, and Marcel Faster also getting involved here, trying to find some sort of way through.
Both Audis just right up the backside of those Peugeots into the first part of the chicane, and definitely you can see both of them pulling out on the straight, trying to make a pass early on.
Now, what have they managed to dial in here? Oh, he's certainly got a little bit more performance. You've got to be said here. The Orica Mambo machine alongside it, Alan McNish having a rare old scrap here. This is wonderful stuff. Well, if they have dialed in something special from the warm-up, it's certainly on board Alan's car.
Yeah, but
he just backs out of it, has to do so.
He was on the wrong side of the road for the PlayStation chicane because that turns left and he had to give way there. But he was going to have another go now. Alan McNish right under Nick Lapierre's wing. Is he going to pull that out and split the Peugeot brigades? Here he goes.
Oh, wonderful stuff. Wonderful racing. The Matmut machine, the AIM machine as well, is also having a real old tussle with the Aston Martin 009 as well. And look at this. Well,
Alan is certainly trying to make a point, isn't he? Alan is certainly trying to say straight from the first lap of Le Mans that, come on, boys, this is going to be a fight.
Gets it down very, very quickly. And I understand I've got a mic problem, so Mark, off you go.
So here we go then, Alan having another go. Don run down to Indianapolis, gets on the inside, Liz. This is the right place to be this time.
It is absolutely. Oh God, it's so tight. You can tell that Alan is making his point very early on what he's going to give in this race.
So it's Peugeot 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's McNish trying to stop that. And again, he goes wide in Indianapolis, loses out a bit of ground to Nick Lapierre. He's driving, remember, the Oreca car, Hugh de Schonak's team. It's Pedro Lamy leaving Marc Genet, Frank Montagny, Nick Lapierre, then Audi 1, 2, 3, McNish, Bernhardt and Fassler, and then the 3 Astons, Mucker, Turner in the Gulf cars, and Mayo in the Signature Plus car. Dr. Ulrich then looking on. And watching the progress there, he's mighty impressed with what the wee Scotsman's doing here. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, the Peugeots have got the slipperiness, they have got the top speed. Audis have all the downforce, but the Peugeots are just starting already as they come up to the end of the first lap to make their mark, Liz.
Well, sorry about the brief hiatus, and sorry that Liz is without a headset just for the time being, but it is busy stuff. Sorry, we've got some sound issues here. We're just sorting them out, but we are already just no more than 5 minutes into this race, as you can see. Look at that, 23 minutes 56 and 20 remaining here. Lights ablaze. We've started at Le Mans. Our live coverage goes on from here. Finally, they're settling themselves down. It was a great attempt by Alan McNish early on to make some kind of moves here, and but finally, I think it's just starting to unravel here for them. It's very, very early days. But it was amazing to see just how much performance he had right at the very beginning, particularly on the straight. So I'm surprised.
What an incredible start that was from Alan. I mean, straight away, we're at the beginning of a 24-hour race, the biggest one in the world, and we're seeing essentially what we would see in a sprint race. It was just absolutely incredible, but it makes you see what has Audi found. They said they'd found something. They didn't tell us what, but it's definitely something. Oh, we've got the Autocon car stopped out on track, I believe. That is the Lola AER of Mike Lewis.
And with the field so compacted here, they just have to take a great deal of care, as you can see. Car stop, it's at post 100 if you've got your little map out there. Yeah, it's still busy stuff. And in straight away comes the Luc Alvon Adventures machine. Clearly not a happy place to be. I just wonder if it's a puncture issue there. It looks like it may well be a door problem. Simple as that. They've literally just opened the door and closed it again. But it's right next to the driver as well. Can't understand why he actually didn't do that. Peugeot's then just settling themselves almost into a near formation here. And, well, let's just hope that for Audi's sake and the race's sake that doesn't go on forever here. So for the time being, at least, after a very, very busy start, we're just settling ourselves in with Peugeot holding station, and look at that, a very, very familiar look, it's got to be said. So the blue, blanc et rouge are out in front, and it's Peugeot's 1, 2, 3 and 4 with the Team Orica Matmut machine, also a 908, and very, very close to factory spec. Virtually no difference, you've got to say, Mark, between the 4 Peugeots, despite the fact that one is run by Matmut.
Yes, the cars are identical, as you say. But look at that, Lamy and Genet trading fastest sectors. Lamy in 1 and Genet in 2, and they're just starting to pull away from the field now. The Peugeots are covered by 2.2 seconds, and the best of the rest is Audi, 3.1 seconds behind the leader, and then a huge gap down to the Aston, 7.5 seconds, and we're only on the second lap of the race.
Yeah, it's been an incredible start to this race, really, and we're looking down as we go down the list to LMP2 as well. You can see that even though we've got the same engine in the cars, the first 3 cars, that Johnny Kane has actually pulled out quite a decent lead, I think, at the beginning. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes about, Carlton, in this race.
Very much so. The GT cars, we've got Jean Polican, who's tumbled down the order of the 72 car, having to just pop in to get its doors adjusted. But as you can see, everyone's still within sight of each other here, and is so busy on track. It's unbelievable. Just on board with the 9 car here. This is Timo Bernard. Mike Rockefeller qualified this car. I'm surprised I'm not surprised, I suppose, but it came as a revelation that the teams stick to a very, very rigorous, certainly within Audi, exchange policy, and that every driver knows who he's going to be taking over from.
Yeah, well, I think that makes a really big difference. You have to know in a race like this. You can't have any ambiguity left at all. You must have a plan within the team and within the drivers, so they know exactly what's happening. And I spoke to Timo actually not long ago before the race, and he actually seemed quite in the right place for this race, and he said, they'd like to be a little bit quicker than they were, but he seemed rather confident in an interesting way. So I think perhaps there'd been a bit of a chat there early on, and they were feeling like they'd found a bit of something in the Audi before the start.
Well, certainly Alan McNish talking a little bit earlier on today, saying precisely that just before the start. He said, you just watch, and particularly if the moisture comes down, and Mark Cole, we may well get a little bit of rain. We've had just about all weather conditions here. When we arrived from scrutineering, we had hail, we've had rain full on, we've had little bits of drizzle. Thankfully it's dry, despite the fact that it's overcast here as we get underway.
Yeah, the track is fully dry at the moment, but we are told there's a possibility of light showers coming later this afternoon. That's what Meteo France are telling us. They seem to know what's going on. The Peugeots again in fighting. Big battle for second place going on there. But while we're looking at these, let's have a quick look down the order. Peter Cox started, the young driver, Aston Martin DBR9 from GT1 pole. He still holds that from Baz Linders. And Ollie Gavin, Yardley Hastings' finest, he started that Corvette, the 64 Corvette from pole, and he still holds that position. So no change in the 4 classes in the leaders, but it's a second place battle that's now lighting the track up. This is really, really tough between Genet and Montagny.
Now the man who's just done his fastest sector time of the race so far is Pedro Lamy. He's just done his fastest first sector time so far. So we may start to see those times get even closer to the qualifying times, Carl.
Well, we're only a couple of laps into this one, and already into the early 320s, the first 3 of the Peugeots. Lapierre's in the 324.883, but it is getting very, very quick out there. The absolute ideal as far as the drivers are concerned, a number of them have had a chat about this as we look at this lovely little battle, just ultra the 2 Aston Martins here. Yeah, they want cool air in the morning. They want it to be nice and quiet, clear and on slicks. Well, they've got just about everything they want at the moment, because it is cool, they are on slicks, it's nice and dry, and the times are absolutely coming to them. Montagny has actually just bested the middle sector here, sector 2 as well, so it really is their playground for the time being, Peugeot. But we've said that before many times. It has come good for them in the past, naturally enough, but well, we'll just see how this battle pans out, because for the time being it's Peugeot's 1, 2, 3 and 4, their qualification position, and despite the best efforts of Alan McNish, he just couldn't clip at their heels at the beginning of this one, and has had to just settle into station.
Well, this is about the time we're going to see the tyres really coming into action now, because normally when a car makes a pit stop, they get the tyres hot straight out of the oven. But of course, at the beginning of the race, they've sat around on the grid a bit, that sort of thing. So it takes them a little bit of time to really get the tyres optimized. But right about now, we're just starting to see faster and faster sector times by the front runners. Montagny has just done his fastest second sector time, so I think we're going to start to see things hot up even more now, and it'll be interesting to see what Peugeot can do.
Yeah, the 300 cars as well are in positions 8, 9 and 10. It's great for Lowell as well, and the Orica of Ayari is running in 11th at the moment. But when you look at Ayari's time, and in fact the 008 car in the hands of Mayo, it's 10 seconds. That's the deficit that they've got at the moment on Pedro Lami's machine. And look at this, Montagny is absolutely picking it up here. Here it was the start earlier on, and yes, the 4 Peugeots in a very, very happy place out in front. And despite Alan McNish, who just went through here on his teammate to take that position, it was P5, which he's held ever since. As soon as he came up to Dunlop and went through the curves, it just had to settle down a little bit. This was a moment that surprised a number of us though, Mark. Straight line performance of the 7 car early on.
Yeah, very much so, but very, very impressive with McNish. But Frank Montagny's just done fastest lap of the race so far, a 3:21.5. He's only 1.6 seconds now off pole position, and this is the pace Liz was just mentioning about. These cars are not hanging around. This is a 24-hour sprint race, Liz.
It is, absolutely. I mean, now that we've got this performance level with the, certainly the top 8 cars, if not even the top 15 almost, we are seeing what is essentially a sprint race for a very long time, which we didn't used to see in the past. But certainly now these cars are strong enough. They're built to be 24-hour cars. We've just seen another fastest first sector time, and this time by the Peugeot number 4 of Lapierre. And I think we're just going to start seeing even more of this. Montagny has passed Genet for 2nd place, and I'm wondering who's going to be the next to pass. We're seeing a Peugeot swap about here now, Carlton.
We are. They may well start fighting amongst themselves. We've seen that before as well, especially when Sebastian Bourdais gets on board. He, like many drivers, have a great high opinion of themselves. He did a great job as well when it came to qualification. He's well loved within the team these days, and feels that the car is like a suit that he puts on, and it's kind of the first time since the Champ Car days that he's been able to say that. That's how comfortable he feels. If you look further down the field, it's Johnny Kane at the moment leading LMP2 with David Brabham. It's HPD cars 1 and 2 at the moment, with the Lola of Tommy Erdos in the 25 car in 3rd place. As far as GT1 is concerned, Peter Cox of the Aston Martin is out in front, which is great news. Baz Linder and the Ford GT just behind, with Julian Jus, and we've got Mush as well, also in the Ford. So a couple of Fords in the top 4, which is great running for them. When it comes to GT2, Ollie Gavin and Magnussen are having a terrific scrap between the Corvettes out there. And yes, it's Mark Lieb in the Porsche. Crucially for Porsche, he and Patrick Long are leading the Ferrari of Jean Alesi at the moment. They desperately want revenge, but they're going to have to deal with the Corvettes, who are running very, very strongly here this year.
They are. They're looking really quick at the moment. They're a good 2 seconds a lap quicker than the closest Porsche, which is Mark Lieb's Porsche. And that's going to maybe make them a little bit nervous right now. And I really do think that Corvette has the experience, has the ability to take this and win the GT2 class, and actually I think that would be fantastic for them. I'm not opposed to that.
Nigel Mansell, incidentally, is right at the back of the LMP1s. He said his first aim here is to actually finish the race. His second aim is not to get into the grasp of the LMP2 cars. And right now Johnny Kane is knocking on the door, Mark Cole.
Yeah, but no, I was just going to say quite the opposite, Carlton. Crucially, Mansell's got himself ahead of Johnny Kane. Oh, started behind him. He's got himself ahead. So there's now a solid block. The top 17 cars are all LMP1s, and Nigel just absolutely loving his time here. He told us the other night on air, he said it's the most extraordinary thing he's ever done in his life, his first laps in the dark at Le Mans. He came up to Eurosport last year, said, I got to come back here, not just to play golf, but to race with my boys. Here they are. What a fairy story.
And what a spectacular thing to do, to race with, all in the family. I think that's wonderful. I would love to have raced at Le Mans with my father if I'd had the opportunity. And it must be a really special thing for all of them. And certainly I know they're starting to get to grips with this car. I think they've had a little bit of trouble settling in. But I know, certainly speaking to Greg yesterday, he's saying they've got the car quite comfortable now, so they'll be good to go.
Ollie Gavin leading class here. It's Corvettes 1 and 2. Magnussen just behind here, and they almost look like they're on their own. It's a huge performance difference here between themselves and the Porsche of Mark Lieb. Just for the time being, the Corvettes of Ollie Gavin and Magnussen 1 and 2, and it's a bit of a yellow party for the time being in the GT2 class, joined by Johnny Molan. Johnny, it's been a fantastic start here. It I really didn't think that Alan McNish would be able to get back at the Peugeots. For a few fleeting moments, we thought it might happen.
I think what you saw there, to be honest, I mean, I talked to Alan before the start, and they know they've got their work cut out to beat the Peugeots once they get into their stride. And I think you saw, obviously, Nicolas Lapierre there, probably one of the lesser experienced Peugeot drivers out there, and Alan thought he maybe give him a hard time and get onto the back of the factory cars, but it wasn't to be, and now they're just settling into a pattern.
So we're looking back further down through the field. There is the young drivers Aston Martin, followed by the Ford. We will be back after a short break here, live at Le Mans. Welcome back. Nigel Mansell has just perhaps, well, certainly hampered his day. It looks like there was big contact. He's been on both sides of the course here, Johnny.
Yeah, I mean, so unfortunate. Again, that's a Zytek car that I know well, and I was talking to Nigel Mansell again this morning, and he wasn't particularly happy with certain aspects of his car, but nevertheless been going quite well. And I couldn't actually see, obviously, but we're going to see a replay here. That looks to me, he was already backwards there, like he had a tyre, potentially a tyre failure or something fail, because that's not a place you're just going to crash on your own.
Huge groan around the crowds here. We've got big screens to watch, of course, as well, and they know instinctively that Nigel Mansell there, it does not look good. It's a very, very long race, though, don't forget. 23 hours and 42 minutes, just under that remaining, but he's okay, which is also very good news.
You'd be surprised, actually, and you can take a pretty hard impact, and so long as it spreads it along the whole chassis, that the Zytek's a tough car, and that doesn't necessarily, I know it looks pretty big, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're out of it. Obviously they're going to lose time, but if they've done suspension damage, they can change suspension. So long as they've not actually cracked the tub or anything like that, they'll be able to get back out there again.
Yeah, but that's a massively fast part of the circuit coming down to Indianapolis.
It is. I myself have had a tyre blowout exactly there, and I know, but in actual fact it even delaminated the floor when I hit the Armco, but we actually got back out there again.
So it can happen, and the safety car's out, and the reason is it's this man. We're still under green flag conditions, but they are being held up here, as you can see. Safety car good and proper, fully announced here. So the safety car's out because sadly the red 5 has taken a bit of a spin. It's hit both sides of the Armco at speed. Nigel, we understand, is okay. We're just hoping that the car is okay and can rejoin a little bit later, but he's going to be at the back of the timing sheets.
The reason for the safety car was a lot of debris there on the circuit, Johnny. We've got bits of tyre, fiberglass, everything, and they just need, don't they,
no,
at
absolutely,
that point of the circuit, make absolutely sure it's clean.
He was running quickly though, wasn't he?
He was. I mean, he'd just done a 36.4, and I think actually scanning down through the times, that is 4/10 quicker than they actually qualified the car. So Nigel was actually, he was on it, but I still don't think, from judging, I'd have to see a replay to really know, but it doesn't look to me like that was anything other than some sort of a failure or a puncture or something like that, because that is not a place that you would normally crash.
No, and the following car as well is clearly not involved, just catching up. We don't know whether there was any contact in advance of that, but we've got the precautionary ambulances here as well.
I think John is right. That was there were bits of tyre all up the straight there.
Well, to be honest with you, that's just where you crest coming down, and as you crest, the car tends to go up on the suspension, then as it comes back down again, if you've had a tyre failure or puncture, that's when it suddenly delaminates on you, and it'll just turn you sharp right. And it looks to me like he turned sharp right, hit the barrier on the right, came back across the track, because you can see the grass across the surface of the circuit, and then obviously ended up in the barriers on the right hand side as we look at it.
Well, we've never seen a man more relaxed than Nigel Mansell over the last couple of days. He really has been in great spirits and great mood, and we just hope that he is okay here. They're taking a lot of time to extricate him from the vehicle.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that he will be fine. Obviously, I've driven those cars. I know they're very safe. We've had some huge issues in terms of accidents with them. Stefan Johansson, my teammate, had a monster accident in Petit Le Mans a couple of years ago and walked away. So I'm very hopeful that Nigel will be absolutely fine. But obviously they're taking all the necessary precautions and make sure they've got everybody there they need to, just in case there is any kind of problem.
Yeah, absolutely. It needs to happen. And just coming in off the lead, pinning off the lead, is Baz Leiders in the Ford 70 car here, which will hand that over, I should imagine, to Peter Cox by the time this one spins out a little bit. A little bit of concern as well in the red 5 area, naturally enough, but you've also got to say that at this course safety is practically second to none. They've got amazing facilities here, hospital very close by, and every single fast kind of aircraft you could possibly want to actually get people to the correct hands.
I couldn't agree more, Carlton, and it's always nice as a driver to come here, because ultimately this is the ultimate challenge for car and driver and team, and you do get up to some incredibly high speeds, and you are going to have the odd issue, whether it's a puncture through no fault of a tyre manufacturer or anything like that. You have tyre failures or suspension failures, and you can have a very high-speed accident here. So as a driver, it's very, very nice to know that you have an incredibly good safety team out there, and if you do ever have a problem, you're going to be in very, very good hands. But fortunately, historically, certainly in recent times, we've been very fortunate. Nothing too serious has ever happened, but there have been some huge accidents, as we see the GT40 stuck at the end of the pit lane there with the red flag out. Obviously, he will not be allowed to leave until the entire train of cars pass.
Yeah, it will be an advantage for Audi that everything's getting compressed up front there, but certainly a huge disadvantage to Bas Leinders, who's going to be held up there until that train does come by. He's going to get himself a lap down, unfortunately. So we're just checking out how slowly they are circulating here, and we're around about the 4 minutes and 20 as we just wait for Nigel Mansell to be taken out. They were getting a stretcher ready. They will have just managed to protect the neck, isolate it, if you will, with a collar, and just make sure that everything is okay with Nigel Mansell, who started in that 5 car.
Johnny, let's just check the situation with Bas Leinders. Now, he'd just taken the lead in GT1 from Peter Cox. As he said, they thought, right, we'll take advantage of the safety car, dive in the pits. He's now stuck at the end. How long is he going to be there?
You see, that's the thing. It's sometimes in a normal racing situation in sports cars, that would have been the right thing to do as soon as the pits were open, pit under yellow. Le Mans, though, it's such a long lap, and the way they do safety cars with 2 safety cars out there, actually sometimes it doesn't work for you. And right now he'll be sat there fuming, probably with the engine running, as we look on screen at Greg Mansell there. And obviously he's nodding there. He doesn't look, hopefully he doesn't look too concerned to me, and I'm sure that Nigel would have been on the radio and telling them he's fine. So he's nodding away there, so that points to me that everything is fine with Nigel.
And there is Nigel, and it looks like the issue is actually not the leg, not the head or anything, which is great news, but the leg, possibly ankles, we don't know. We're only speculating. We're waiting for more news on that, but certainly, Johnny, the good news was the demeanour of his sons.
Yes, they didn't look unduly concerned, and Nigel obviously being carried out of the car there, but I'm sure he's going to be fine. I hope he is anyway. And again, we were talking about earlier with the pitting, obviously the first of the Lowland Aston Martins coming in now, and I was just about to say this is good news for them, because they were falling off a little bit off the back of not just the Peugeots but also the Audis, so this will be good for them if they can get in and get out. And they're a very good team down there. They're a pro-drive team. They know exactly what they're doing, so they'll be pitting at the right time. And also you just caught a glimpse there of the Drayson loader coming in as well, so this will keep the field compressed and mean we'll have a bit more excitement yet again to talk about on the restart.
Absolutely. Well, the Ford GT has actually been let go here, and hardly any time lost either by the 009 car, so they've kind of pitted off the back of the train and will be able to rejoin it. So it will be a compressed field, and they will be able to recontest in a moment. We're going to take ourselves a short commercial break. Don't forget Eurosport.co.uk. Go to the message boards, scroll down to Motorsports, click on Le Mans, and the thread is New Eurosport 2010 Live. Welcome back with the safety car just passing, or the train I should say, just passing the number 5 car. And I'm sorry to tell you that Beach Team Mansell machine is out of this year's race. It managed 4 laps, and we never got to see Greg or Leo having a go out there, because Nigel, sadly, for whatever reason, we're not sure just for the time being whether there was any kind of contact, but it looks like it was just a failure of some sort. Hit both sides of the circuit, and he has been taken to hospital, we think with a leg problem.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it there, I'm pretty sure I know exactly what happened, because exactly the same thing happened to me in 2008 in the Creation. I had a tyre failure, and literally just as you crested heading down towards Indianapolis, you're doing well over 200 miles an hour at that point, and it just turned me sharp right into the barriers on the right hand side. And fortunately for me, I actually managed to get it somehow straight, so it actually went down the barriers on the right hand side, but it was still a big impact. I think with Nigel, it's actually hit perhaps a little bit more head on and then spat him back across into the barriers on the left hand side. So I can tell you now, because I've experienced it, that would have been a big impact, and I was lucky. I think if he hit it at a slightly less angle, I can understand now why he might have leg injuries.
Yeah, we are getting confirmation it was a left rear puncture.
Yes,
that put him off.
But it would just spit you straight right into the. And it's happened to me, and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, it's not a tyre issue or anything else. It's just the nature of this track. You get a little bit of gravel or debris or something on the circuit. Those prototypes are running with such colossal levels of downforce that as you run over a piece of debris, it's being pushed up into the tyre. You don't get any warning whatsoever, and you just get an immediate blowout. And they all run tyre pressure sensors, these cars. All the drivers have warning warnings in the cockpit, as do the telemetry, real-time telemetry in the teams, where they can see a drop in pressure, tyre pressure, which is great if you have a slow puncture and they can warn you in advance, but it doesn't help you when you have an immediate failure like's happened here.
No, and he does still, despite his age, he has some great reactions. He's lost an awful lot of weight to get competitive as well.
Fit as a fiddle, Carter.
Yeah, 23 pounds he's lost within just a couple of months. I know that Magnus Backstead, who's the cycling commentator at Eurosport, has actually been taking him through his paces. So we're just listening in to. So the two sons haven't actually managed to have a chat, but we're getting a condition update from race records. Telemetry doesn't suggest that there's too much wrong, but yeah, we'll try and figure that one out. Information a bit thin on the ground just for the time being, but Nigel certainly with an arm around two paramedics being carried out, looks like a leg injury, and he's okay, but we'll keep across that for you as soon as we can. We will update you. Don't forget, they are just lining up in class order here, and you just saw that the 42 Straker Racing car is behind its own safety vehicle here, and it's Johnny Kane on board. Danny Watts qualified that, and they were running very well, but then again so was Nigel Mansell. He passed not only Dave Brabham but Johnny Kane as well, so I suppose in a certain way they had been humbled.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, you say that, but obviously he's in the LMP1, faster straight line speed, and I think that's going to be a fascinating fight between the two Acuras there. And obviously Danny Watts did a superb job yesterday. David Brabham also qualified the car, and you've got to remember a second and a half difference between them sounds like an awful lot, and it would be around any normal circuit, but here at Le Mans I always say you need to divide that by about 4, so you're probably only looking at 3 or 4 tenths in terms of difference between those two cars in terms of outright speed.
Very unhappy Baz Linders. He of course has got he's lost a half a lap now to the rest of the class plus his pit stop, and this is the problem with having the two safety cars on either side of the circuit. He's lost a half a lap already, and of course the other thing is that the other half of the field that's behind the second car, that's dropping further and further back as it goes on.
And I can tell you something that I've experienced here when they have multiple safety cars is they don't always go green at the same time. So you can actually be in a situation where I've been told it's green, 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 and I'm still in a line of cars, and the other safety cars actually pulled over, and the other half of the guys competing are going flat out, and we're still going along at sort of first gear behind a safety car. So it can sometimes get a bit confusing, and it is difficult for the organisers with such a long circuit and such a large number of cars to make sure that everything is always completely fair for everybody.
Yeah, I think the onboard lights is a great idea that just keeps everyone informed at exactly the same time as to that. You can see here it's quite benign conditions. The sun has in fact come out. It's rather chipper, I've got to say, save for those who happen to be in the Red 5 machine, unfortunately, the Beach Team Mansell car. So Johnny, Corvette Racing is looking fantastic for them at the moment.
Yes, I mean, Liz actually alluded to it earlier on, and I agree with her entirely, as we see a nice slow-mo shot there of the Rebellion Lola. But I think that the Pratt & Miller GM Corvette team is probably one of the greatest teams out there in terms of GT racing anyway, and I've had the misfortune to actually compete against them for a long time, and they have absolutely annihilated us pretty much every time. And when it comes to Le Mans, they know how to win this race better than anyone. Now, they may be in GT2 now instead of GT1, but funnily enough, they're out front, first and second, and looking very comfortable and lapping about 3 to 4 seconds a lap on average quicker than those behind them. I think probably the only car that on pace could have maybe taken the fight to them early in the race was the Risi Ferrari, who unfortunately, again, I know the Risi boys very well, raced for them here, and they had to start from the back, but again, they're good at starting from the back and winning, as we did in Sebring with them, so I wouldn't rule them out, and this obviously would have helped them enormously, so long as obviously they didn't get stuck in a different safety car to the two Corvettes.
It's kind of a different story for them in GT1. It's a class that's really been hobbled, I suppose, after a lot of speculation last year. The fields this year were just very minimal, and it kind of became, as we were saying earlier, a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy that they have finally decided to kill it off, sadly, for next year. There's going to be just one GT class, an all-encompassing class.
I actually think that's a good thing to do. I mean, GT1, I raced in GT1, and it's pomp here, and it was fantastic with the factory Aston Martins, and before that the Ferraris and the Corvettes, and obviously we did it in the Saleen factory of support there and everything, and that was fantastic. But I have to say, I think that GT1 was, you know, almost dead and buried. So I think it's almost putting it out of its misery, and I think that's the right thing to do. And GT2 has never been stronger. I mean, right now the amount of manufacturer involvement is fantastic, and it's a joy to watch them all here. BMW, Corvette, Ferrari, all of them just really, you know, Aston Martin battling it out with Porsche, of course, who are stalwarts here at Le Mans.
This holiday, big breath time for everybody. Beechstein still just waiting for news on Nigel Mansell, but we believe he's not seriously hurt, which is great news. Just take us through what goes through the drivers here, Liz. It's not this kind of lengthy hiatus which you've got here. Just how do you keep yourself in the zone?
Well, especially this early on in the race, it's not really what you want to see. You're just sort of settling in and starting to pull the, you know, regular lap times about 4 laps into the race, and then next thing you know, it's a safety car. And of course, with this one, it's a long one. You worry when you've seen a lot of safety vehicles out there. You start to worry for the other driver as well. And certainly then it becomes an issue because your tires start to get colder. You start to get debris on them. It's just sort of keeping your brain in line and keeping yourself focused, isn't it, Johnny?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in some ways, it's kind of difficult to maintain focus in this situation, and this is the thing about Le Mans 24 Hours in terms of the circuit. It's not necessarily the most physically demanding circuit that a driver will compete at, but I can pretty much say it's one of the most mentally demanding circuits you'll compete at, and the mental focus and maintaining that through the whole race and through the whole of your stint is critical in terms of making sure that you actually have a really good result at the end of it.
Well, we're going to take ourselves a short commercial break while we have the safety car here. I'm sorry that the racing's been interrupted, and for those of you who are only just joining us a little bit late, unfortunately it's the Red 5 car that has gone into the barriers. The Beechstein Mansell machine is out, along with Nigel, Greg and Leo. Welcome back. The ambulance just leaving with Nigel Mansell on board after the 5 car got into both barriers here and sadly is out of the race. We've got 3 safety cars on course at the moment, one of which has apparently only got 6 vehicles behind it. So discussion time, and I think already smiles at Peugeot, and hardly surprising, Johnny Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly have the car to win this race. In a way, the pressure is off, I think, Audi to some extent now, because this is Peugeot's race to lose. I think everyone, you know, I heard you mention earlier on about the legend Jackie Ickson, what he reckoned, and you have to agree with him on paper. But I still say that in the past they would have won the Le Mans probably earlier than they did if they had not, if they had rather been able to keep their drivers perhaps slightly more under control, I suppose, as a polite way of putting it. They have, without a doubt, some of the fastest sports car drivers in the world within their cars, but they still very much believe that they should be going flat out all the time, and that is a kind of philosophy that Peugeot seems to maintain and seems to value within the team in terms of comparing their drivers, whereas Audi, on the other hand, they have their program, they know who's qualifying, and they just deal with it as and when they have to in terms of keeping everyone in that team pulling in the direction that Audi want them to pull in. And I'm not sure, I still think you saw Montagny there passing Marc Genet, giving it everything he had, you know, to get past Marc Genet, and there's never any doubt in my mind that Audi would hold train first, second and third if they needed to at a certain point in the race. I can't see that happening with Peugeot, no matter what they tell them on the radio, and I think that's their Achilles heel, and I still think, even with an advantage that they've got here, that could perhaps come back to bite them, but maybe I'm doing them a huge disservice, and I probably am.
I agree with you completely, to be honest. I think they're told to push, and they do push all the time, because in speaking with some of the boys, they've always said, look, we have to get in the car and push. I've spoken to Nick Manassian, and he said, well, every time we're in, we have to just large it every time.
I tell you what, Liz, and I realise, and to some extent, the Audi, it's not like the Audi boys get in and cruise around.
No, definitely not.
But what happens with Peugeot is that they actually have on their pit boards and up on the gantries, you can go up and look at your quickest time and look at your average in comparison to all the other drivers, and they have that apparently during the race. Now, that's a red rag to a bull to any driver who needs to put his ego in his back pocket during a race like this to keep himself, you know, basically pulling in the direction of the team and acting as a teammate. If you go up there and you see your 5th, 6th, or heaven forbid slowest of the drivers and your average lap time slow, when you get in the car next time, you are going to absolutely push as hard as you can, perhaps over the limit, in order to make sure that you move up that sort of leaderboard. And that is not the right mindset to have if you want to win a 24-hour race. Yeah. That's not to say that you don't go out there and drive as fast as you can, but you don't want to have that insecurity in the back of your head that you're being judged every single lap.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you, and I think we're soon going to be hearing something from one of the many best Audi drivers. We've got an interview coming to you from Capello.
Yeah, Dino Capello's going to have a brief chat with us, and Stuart Hall will be joining us a little bit later on, just pointing out that it's an Armco repair that's actually mainly holding things up here, and that is clearly an issue here. Didn't get into tyres, hit the hard stuff, and that's why
there are no tyres down there.
That's right, exactly. So we'll head downstairs and have a brief word with Dino Capello. It looks like the cleanup is finished, which is good news.
Dindo, what a bad luck for the safety car.
Yeah, that was really bad luck for us. Alan was screaming his radio because one of the car in front of him just slowed down much too much, and we just missed the queue, the first queue, and then we have been picked up from the second safety car, which cost us, I don't know, half lap probably, and it's a really bad start of the race. That is just bad luck or inexperience of some driver. I really don't know who was the one who slowed down so much, but it's something really bad in such a great event to have some driver that probably they do not know exactly how the rule, what the rules say. You don't need to go 50 kilometers per hour when you are in safety car mode. You have just to keep a safe speed, but you cannot go to 50 for one lap at 50 kilometers per hour.
Dindo, the race is still really long. You can, I'm sure, still push. We saw Alan, and the first lap was really quick.
Yeah, but as you know, we have to really to go as fast as we can every meter of the track, and when you lose such a big gap just due to bad luck, that's you know, it's not easy for sure to recover, especially in our position. But you know, as you said, it's a long race. We will see.
Thank you, Dindo. Thank you so much.
Well, Dindo expressing frustration. I can't imagine what's going on in Alan McNish's helmet, but believe me, it is steamed up. They're not happy at all. They're around about 3 minutes behind, of course, because they're halfway back round the track at a very slow speed. Just looking for, there's a couple of cars looking like they're about to come in. I think the Overcommitment AIM number 6 car is one of those.
Yeah, I was just about to say, going back to that, obviously that they've lost, as Dindo says, the best part of 2/3 of a lap in actual fact with that safety car. Again, it'll be interesting to see as we see the Audis there behind this, the Spiker. I don't know if that was the car that was guilty of going slowly. I'm assuming that perhaps it was, seeing that's the only GT car in between Alan and the safety car that he's actually behind. But it's going to be interesting to see whether they go green all at the same time, or whether they try and allow one group to go before the other. So very unfortunate there for the Audis, but it's still early days. But having said that, if it was the other way round, you'd say the Peugeots are capped at no problem. But with it being that way round, that is also the first nail in the coffin, so to speak, even at this early stage.
And there is nothing more irritating than having that happen to you, especially early on in the race, especially in the position they're in, because they know that the only way they can really win this race is not with speed. It's going to be with perfect pit stops. It's with everything working in their favor, everything working out with the safety cars. So I can completely understand where they are. I'm sure, you know, you've been in the same situation, Johnny. I know I have, where you come out and you know you've got to get there or catch the safety car or something, and you've got somebody there who's just not quite doing the pace, and it is infuriating because we absolutely cannot pass them, and that is part of sports car racing. You've got a variety of cars, and that's just the way it is sometimes. It
is, and at that point quite often the radio needs to have, you know, be bleeped out entirely because you're saying, you know, at that point I'm surprised I didn't see if it was, for example, the Spiker, and I don't want to do the Spiker team because in actual fact they've got professional drivers in that car, so I'd be very surprised if they slow down to 50 kilometers an hour. But I'm surprised that whichever car it was, you didn't see Audi people running down to that particular garage and telling them to shift it.
Yeah, I imagine they probably ran down out of view at the back of the garages and had exactly that conversation. So they just come by us again, sadly still behind the safety car. I think it may well, because of track position, it's very difficult for everyone to go green at the same time, because you've got to have an escape road for the vehicle to actually clear out in front of them. So you're absolutely right, it's going to be a bit staggered here, so the luck may get even worse.
So that's what I'm saying. If they let the Peugeots go first, you could could be in a situation where they're coming around to lap the Audis within the next 5-10 minutes of the race, which would not be good for the race as a whole. To be honest, that's not what we want.
And it is indeed the 4 car, the Team Orica Matmut machine, that's actually come in and got onto its spot here. Don't forget, if you'd like to join us, by the way, Mark Cole's just going through the messages, and we'll be having a chat with some of you in just a wee while we have this hiatus. It's eurosport.co.uk. Click on the message boards, scroll down to Motorsports, you'll find Le Mans there. Click on that, and then the topic, the area that we're on at the moment, is new exclamation mark Eurosport 2010 Le Mans Live. Don't confuse it with some of the old message boards that might be lingering around since April, where of course we were busy with a bike 24-hour race. So a very, very well marshaled crew, a team that also have a great deal of good fortune to have full factory spec car here, the 908, and yeah, they really have a great machine in their hands, and they proved that earlier on, because at the start Alan McNish was really hounding the Peugeots there and just couldn't get by, and the Matmut in the hands of Nicolas Lapierre was clearly the first car in his sights. New stadium development for the local football team here. Doesn't look as pretty as it possibly could do, but we'll wait for that. And if you're talking about pretty, well, unfortunately it is not a pretty sight, the number 5 car, which is out of this. It's tagged front and then down one side after Nigel Mansell got into the barriers, and that's why we have a safety car period here. Sadly for Nigel Mansell and sons Greg and Leo, they're out of this race and out very early on. A real shame, but the clock still ticks. So time for to stretch your brains and keep yourself limbered up, frankly, because we've essentially got a whole new restart, at least for the Peugeots. As far as Audi are concerned, they've got a great deal of catching up to do, and maybe even more, Liz.
They do, and one of the things that's sort of unique to Le Mans and any of the other very long circuits we have is these multiple safety cars. It's not an issue that we have on most circuits, but that creates a major problem here, and it is one of the challenges of Le Mans, really. And that's where, like we're just saying, is that Audi could be really in trouble here if the safety car that has the Peugeots in front lets them go first.
Well, I see. I mean, you see, we were just talking about the number 4 Orica Peugeot, and you see there he's being held at the end of the pit lane. We can't see it on picture, but I can see looking out of the screen of the commentary box here that he's being held, and obviously they're coming through the chicane with this particular safety car. So he's come out of one safety car, he's come in the pits, changed his tyres, he's now got to wait until the second safety car, or in this case the third safety car, goes past and then join at the back of them. So it's almost not worth pitting under safety car conditions.
Exactly. It makes you ask what their strategy is about here. Signature Plus Aston is coming here. They're on Dunlops, don't forget, so they'll be swapping those over. But it is a huge penalty if you get held at red, and that's exactly what's happened to Team Orica here. Don't forget, they now essentially hand over that position.
You lose half a lap, and a half a lap of Le Mans is 2 minutes. So it's incredible, and I don't really know why they can't. In a way, I understand the thinking initially with an accident of doing multiple safety cars, and especially at night it can be very useful. But why in a long situation like this, where the race has been broken up unfairly, really, let's be honest, why they can't then bunch them up behind one safety car before they then release them? I don't think that would be too difficult to do, to be honest.
Or even 2.
The next
or even 2. I mean, you've got a long safety car. I can understand when a short safety period, you haven't got time to do that, but in something like this, they've had plenty of time to bunch them behind one.
Yes, and the next fish to be caught is, of course, the Signature Plus, the car that's now held as the Orica Matmut went off and joined a whole raft of GTs and LMP2s out there. Only 6 cars behind the next safety car, we understand, but this is a bit of a carousel we've got going on here, and it's just about everyone's nerves start to fray here, and you can start eating the communications devices.
Well, I think the teams really have to sit back now and think, is it worth bringing the car in? They're going to have to look at what their plan is, how long they think they're going to go on fuel, how they want to shift about the drivers, because some teams, if we'd had longer time under green, a lot of teams would do a driver change under yellow, especially if they're going to be stopped at the end like that. But with these
if you're sat as they have been at the pit out with a red flag for say 2 minutes, like some of them have, and some of them even longer than that, then that's almost a lap under green anyway. So you might as well come in and not take the yellow. You might as well come in under green. You're not going to lose. You're going to lose less coming in under green than taking the yellow.
That's a very good point, actually.
So we are under safety car, unfortunately, and they are causing all kinds of havoc out there. This safety car is particularly is now gone off, and we're starting to green flag here, and that's a pleasure to be able to say it. We've got a real mix of class, however, though, and as the battles start to rage, and just look at that, picking it up is one of the double O machines. Just didn't quite get a flight of it there, and locked in with a lot of far less powerful machines here. Didn't qualify in that position, don't forget, but now has to do something very, very special. I think this was the short trainer. We've already got a spinner. Well, clearly just not either keeping the brains or the heat in the tyres here. The 29 car has taken a little pirouette, unfortunately, just at the get-go here.
It does look like they went green simultaneously, though. That is something that seems to, as you see the Peugeots there working their way through traffic, because obviously they weren't actually at the front of that line in that safety car, but it does look like they went green on the start line, but also went green with the other two safety cars at the same time. So that's good news anyway, to get back racing simultaneously.
One of the flying blizzards just being passed here. We've got Peugeots 1, 2 and 3. We've got Olivier Panis, who is about to have a word with us as well, getting eaten up by the P1 cars. Everyone's still crammed together and rather unfamiliarly out of sequence. Let's dip downstairs. Olivier, we've just started again, quite a smooth one it seems. You've been back in though to change tyres. There we had a problem, he says. And because we're under the safety car, we couldn't get back in, he says. I don't quite understand what that is, because he has been. So, will the stops have an influence here? He says, well, of course, because of the safety car. But I think it's normal to be safe and rather than be sorry, and we have to take measures, he says. Well, as you can see, it's absolutely crammed down there. We've got all kinds of a mix-up here. The leaders are absolutely locked within the GTs as we speak. And the number one car right now, in third place in the hands of Marc Genet, is having a huge job to actually get through a GT field that he wouldn't have expected to be this busy that far down the order, essentially.
No, this is when it's really tough, is when you get a restart in a race like Le Mans, in a sports car race where you have a huge variety of cars and speeds, and it's really a challenge. It's a challenge for both classes, because you need to get around the slower traffic safely, but also as a slower car you need to make sure that you can drive your own line, but also look out for what's coming up behind you, and it is very, very tricky.
I mean, you saw there, I mean, he's actually taking off the circuit now. The problem by doing that is you can pick up punctures, and this goes back to what I was saying. They're desperate. It's literally, you can see the desperation, and there is no need to do that. There's absolutely no need to do that. So if you get a right rear puncture and you get under green, you have to come in and change it, then that's the situation now, and I don't understand that. That's something I was talking about earlier, and it just doesn't make sense to me.
We're not even an hour
These are together here, as you can see, and as Liz points out, we're not even an hour in here, but they're not exactly on the same position on the track, unfortunately for them. It's been a busy restart here, but Pedro Lamy in the number 3 car is in, well, just about in clover as he hits the 10th lap at the moment. He's picked his way throughout very gingerly here. Now don't forget, if two cars have an impact and they're from different classes,